Okay, this video is going to show you how to take the options that you've got and save them when you quit your game. It's a bit like your high scores, and load them when you start the game. So if I was to set life to 7 and difficulty hard, the next time I load the game, I don't want to have to keep resetting the options. I want it to be loaded from a file, and particularly with volume setting as well. Okay, so that's what this video is going to show you. So in order for this to work, you need to make sure that what you've got is an options screen, obviously, and also in your game1.cs, make sure you've set up your file manager. If you've done the saving and loading high scores, you should have already got all that sorted. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to create a class to store our options data. So we're going to right click on code, and we're going to say add new item. It'll chug for a little bit because it tends to the first time you open this dialog. Okay, and we're going to make sure class is selected, and we're going to change the name of it, and you can call it whatever you want, but I'm calling it option data. Okay, and let's click on add, and it'll chug away and create that. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to put public in front of that, and then for each item that you're going to save, with each menu you've got in your options, we're going to create storage. So we're going to say public. Now for mine, I've got, and you can find this out quickly if you go to your graphics.cs. So I've got a difficulty menu, a lives menu, and a volume menu. So I've just got those three. You might have extra things depending on what you're doing. Okay, but they're the three settings that I've got. So in my option data, I need to create an integer for difficulty. I need to create a public integer for lives, and I need to create a public integer for volume. Okay, so they're the three I'm going to create. While I'm here, I'm going to put 3 slashes above public class and add a summary tag, and I'm going to say for saving and loading of options data. Okay, so that creates the thing that's going to store the data for me. What I now need to do is create one of those. So I've gone to options.cs, and right at the top I'm going to put this code. I'm going to say option data, use your picker. I'm just going to call it options equals new option data. Okay, so that just creates one of those classes. Okay, so that I'll be able to store my data. Now, just like the high score one, I'm going to need save and load routines. So I'm going to create just under here void save option data. So this is my subroutine that's going to save this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the selected stuff from the menu. So I'm going to say options dot difficulty equals, and then I need to put the name of my difficulty menu, mndiff, and I need to say selected. Okay, so that gives me what number in my difficulty list has been selected, and that's what I'm going to store. So I'm going to do that for each of the other two things. So I've got lives equals, from the lives menu, what is the currently selected item. That's what selected gives us. And my other one is volume. So I'm going to say volume graphics.mnvol, I think I called it, yeah, mnvol.selected. Oops. Okay, use the picker, and that stops you making daft spelling mistakes. Okay, once I've done that, I can actually save the file. So I'm going to use the file manager, and I'm going to say save XML file. It wants to know what I'm saving, so I'm saving options, and my file name is going to be options.xml. I'm going to call it. Okay. Right, that's the easy bit, that's saving. For loading, it's the same as when we did the loading of the high scores. So we need 2 subroutines for this. So we need a load option data. So void load option data. And for this one we need to tell the file manager, and you say file manager dot load XML file into what object, so that's going to be options. What file name? So I'm going to use the exact same file name, otherwise this is never going to work. So options.xml. Then it needs a read routine. So I'm going to call this one load. Oh no, I've just used load. Let's do get option data. No, I'm going to use a different name. I'm going to say load option file. That's what I'm going to call it. Okay, that doesn't exist yet, so I need to create that. So just after this subroutine, I'm going to say void load option file. Now this needs a parameter, this subroutine. It accepts a read helper, and I'm going to just call it R. Okay, so I've just created a blank subroutine. That'll stop moaning. Okay, because I've now created my load option. Now this is identical code nearly to the loading of the scores. So what I need to do first off, I need to say if r.read possible, which means if the file's been loaded or attached to properly. Okay, and then I put bracket brace. If that's not possible, what I need to do is set a default. So I need to say options dot equals new option data. Okay, and that will set up a default. So I'm just going to put a little comment there. Default failed to load. Okay. Right. The other thing I need to do is, if it is possible to read it, I need to attempt to read it. Now there might be reasons why the data's not right in the XML file. So I have to use try and catch. So I'll put try, brace, and then catch, brace. If I have an error when I try and use the data from the file, catch will be called, and I will set the defaults again. So I'll say options equals new option data. So failed format. You might have put some stupid data if you edited the file or something. Set defaults. Okay. If it's going to work, what we're going to try and do is to say options equals option data r.deserialized. Okay, so we're saying turn it into an object, this XML data. It's an option data object, and stick it in options. That's all that does. Okay, so that's all the help code that I need. So we've got a version of our option data. We've got our save routine. We've got the thing that asks for the loading to start. We've got our other subroutine that does the conversion and sets the options up. Okay. The final thing I need to do in load option file, at this point we've got options, and what we want to do is set all our menus up. So set up menus, and this is basically going to be the reverse of this. So whatever's in the options difficulty, we're going to set the menu to that. So let's scroll back down. So this is at the end of load option file. So we're going to say graphics.mn difficulty, which I called mn-diff, select item, and we're just going to say options.difficulty. So we're just doing the exact opposite. Do the other two menus. .mn lives .select, press an X there, select item options.lives, and the last one was the volume, so mn volume .selected item is options.volume. Okay, so that sets the menus to be whatever we loaded from the file. So whatever we saved, because we did the opposite, whatever we saved that was in the menus, we should be loading back up. So the only thing we've now got to do is do the thing that says save it, so that's in input. So if you scroll right down to the bottom of check input, you should have something called close down, which is where you should be saving your high scores. So in there, I am going to run my save option data, the subroutine I just called. Remember that was, if I just go to that, that was this one. That one set all the options up and then saved it. And the other one we need to do is in startup, in setup tasks, I need to say, oh, set the menus up. But I must make sure I do this after I have created the menus. If I do it first, they won't exist. Okay. So after after create menus, I'm going to say load option data. I think that was the right one. Just double check. Go to data. Okay, that was the one. Load option data. That's the one that asked the file to be loaded. Okay. Right. That should be all we've got to do. So let's just do F5 and run it. Hopefully it's going to work. Right, so we're going to go to our options. Right, they're the default values, 0 for all of them. So I'm going to set that to hard, lives to 5, and I'm going to set my volume to 91. Okay, then I'm going to go to finish, and I'm going to go to my exit code, because that then runs my save code. So I'm going to exit my system. Okay, then I'm going to run it again, and what should happen is it should be set to hard, 5 lives, and oh god, what did I put? 91 for volume, I think, or something like that. So I'm going to go to my options, and there you go. It's on hard, lives 5, volume 91. So I'm going to change that back down to the 27, set my lives to 7, and I'm going to set difficulty to normal. Okay, and I'm going to quit out of the system again. Right, just to show you that that's worked, I'm going to navigate to my documents, find my save games folder. I've got a preview on so we can see this. This program was called Options System. So in my saves, then you have to go to all players. I should have options.xml. Okay, which is showing difficulty is 1, which was, remember everything starts at 0 when we got lists. So 0 was easy, 1 was normal, 2 is hard, so that's on 1, normal, which is what it was. Lives was on 3, so I had 1, 3, 5 and 7, so 3 was 7, the 7th, the third item in the menu, and volume was 27. Okay, so I'm going to change one of these. I'm going to set this one to 0. Oh, it won't let me do that. Let me just open it with Notepad. Open with Notepad, and I'm going to set the difficulty to 0 and save that. So when I run it again, the difficulty should be on easy, because that's the first item in that list. Okay, and then I'll show you one more thing so you can set what your default value should be. So start, options, there you go, difficulty is on easy, lives on 7, volume was 27. Okay, quit out again, have a look at my preview, and you can see that it's changed the volume and the lives to match. Okay, right, if you want to set some defaults in option data, just set them. So if I want normal difficulty, I'm just going to say 1, because that was the middle of the list. If I want my lives to be 3, and you can verify this by going into your options where you created your menus, my lives menu somewhere here. Right, I've got 1, 3, 5 and 7. So this is item 0, this is item 1, item 2, item 3. Okay, so in option data I'm going to set lives to that. Volume I'm going to set to 76. Okay, so I'm going to run that again, and the only way I'll get my defaults is if I've got a corrupt file. So go to that. So let's say I corrupt the file. I'm going to put some ridiculous data in when I edit the file. So that's been saved. So I'm going to open it with Notepad. Let me go back to documents. Saved games. Option system saves. All players. Right click, open with notepad, and I'm going to put some junk in it. So I'm going to put Eric is stupid. Okay, and I'm going to save that. So what should happen, and I'm going to prove it to you. What should happen if I scroll up to the top of my options, I'm going to put a breakpoint on load option file, and I'm going to run this now just to prove it. You don't have to do this yourself, this is just to prove it what it's doing. So it's going to hopefully pop out at this line. Okay, it should be saying true for that, which it is doing, look. So it's going to attempt to load it. So we go into the try and we say okay, deserialize it, but it should error, and it does. Look, it's hit the catch because I've got information that's text when I expected a number. So it should set my defaults now. So if I just carry on running that, so I've got normal, 3 and 76. Okay, that's what I set all my defaults to, and that's it. That's all there is to it.